works at the college, and he works with students who are going to travel abroad, so our American students who are going to travel abroad, and we also have with us 2 international students who obviously came to Monmouth from their home countries. So Dr. James Godey is in our biology department. He's been with us since 2001, and he most recently is leading a new semester abroad program in Merida, Mexico, and it's through the ACM, correct?
It's our own program.
Oh, it is our own program.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have with us Sujith is a class of 2017 graduate from India, and he majored in computer science here at Monmouth. And then we have Noon, and she is, what year is your graduation? I'm sorry. 18. She's a 2018, so she's going into her senior year, and she'll be majoring in public relations and communication. So I have some questions for them that I'm just going to start off with, but as you guys have questions, just go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll do it like a question and answer session, and let them chat with you guys about their experiences. So I'm going to start with our students and ask you guys, how did you initially hear about Monmouth?
Sure. Basically, we had, well, I live in Southwest India, and our schools are really not close to the cities. But I happened to go to a city where there was an education fair, and Monmouth, and the representative was speaking at a panel, something like this. And I was really interested in what she had to say about the liberal arts education. I did not know about that because I was working at a technical school. And that kind of led me to a conversation with her. She was like, you know what, you should try and apply it. I'm like, I mean, what's that going to cost, right? And I did, and the response was really fast, so yeah, here I am.
My experience was a little bit different. I went to the U.S. News and World Report. They have all the data, all the statistics about schools. So I just made a list of schools that had communication majors, and I applied to about 11 schools, and Monmouth gave me the very good deal. So, and I talked to the admission advisor and learned a little bit more about Monmouth. And previously, before me, there was a Vietnamese student, so I talked to her, and her experience here was great. So I decided to go to Monmouth, and gonna graduate in a year.
We haven't heard where she's from.
Oh, I'm from Vietnam.
Thank you.
Professor Godey, do you want to just tell us more about what the program that you're leading in Merida is?
Yes, I'll try to be brief. That's not
Loaded question.
We're always keen to get more students to study abroad, and we've sent them traditionally on ACM programs where I think they have them in 14 different countries and things like that, and we've used some other programs. But we realized if we're going to really be able to increase our numbers, we had to run our own program, which we have never done. In the history of the college, we've never had a semester-long study abroad program that Monmouth ran. Unless you guys remember one and you can correct me, but at least in the history I know. But so we said, okay, where can we do a program? And the logical place was in a Spanish-speaking country. We have a language requirement here, and 80% of the students take Spanish to fulfill it. So we said, okay, that is where we need to be. And we wanted it to be in a safe area, and somewhere that was also affordable. So by the time we crunched all the numbers, we said we should have it in the Yucatan in Merida. There are some parts of Mexico we wouldn't feel comfortable sending our students, but the Yucatan is the safest state in Mexico. They did a study on violent crime, and they compared it to the levels of crime in Finland. So we essentially sent students to Finland, but they needed somebody to lead it, and I had already led the ACM semester in Tanzania in 2011. It was quite different, the location, but the general idea was, you know, how do you take a bunch of students and get them in this country and, you know, have a program that's awesome. So I thought I could handle that, and I'm always up for new challenges. So this last spring we had 5 students that went to Merida. We started out a little, you know, small, just to see how it would go, and I think it went well. Next year we're going to send 12, and we'll probably have around that go on a continual basis. But I had a pretty small small group purposely, just to try to iron out the kinks and things. But the students then were in an immersive environment. They had homestays where the family spoke Spanish to them. They took all their classes except for mine in Spanish. My Spanish isn't great, so I taught my classes in English. But the other classes they took, including acting and anthropology and Spanish language course, were obviously all in Spanish. And so I think it was a really good experience for them to practice their Spanish. And they came back speaking much better and understanding Spanish well. Yes?
How long were you there?
The whole semester. We left on January 2nd, and we got back on May 13th. So we were there for 4.5 months.
So someone else did your job while you were gone?
Essentially. So I still taught classes, they just weren't here. So it wasn't like, I wasn't officially on sabbatical or anything like that. I taught, 2 different classes. Reflections, which is our junior level class, and mostly it's juniors that study abroad. And then I taught Plants and Society, which was a, general education science class that they could take. And so I was still teaching, and the other people in my department kind of, took what I would have done if I was here on the ground.
Were there native Merida students that also took your classes?
No, this was just the Mama students taking my classes. I don't know if in the future we'll expand out and let other people into them or whatever, but this was just exclusively for Mama students, and in the future we just expect probably Mama students to be part of this.
The students, you said they took classes in Spanish. Were they taking classes at a Spanish college or?
We rented out a facility called Habla, which is actually an English language school for Spanish speakers. But we had space there, and then we hired adjunct professors that taught these classes. So it wasn't based at another university there. It was in the northern part of Merida, around where the students lived in their homestays. So it worked out really well doing it that way, and we decided that that was the model we would use. So renting out the space and then hiring the professors for those classes.
Is there an adjustment between Spanish and Mexican?
Yeah, I mean, they use different words there, and they pronounce things differently there. We have a variety of Spanish professors here. Some have, teach more the Mexican Spanish, and others are from South America, and so then they teach, slightly different versions. But the students picked up really quick and figured it out. But the dialects are a little different.
How did you set up the homestays?
So we have a person on the ground there that was working with Center College, and then we have, obviously some ties there with our president having come from there. So we use the same person that coordinates the Center College study abroad, and she set up our homestays. Because obviously I couldn't just show up and start knocking on doors or anything, so it worked out really well. They had people that they have used before for other colleges that they knew would be good, and that they'd have a good experience with.
I would like to ask the 2 students, what surprised you the most about culture here in the United States?
I have to think about that.
I would say just realizing that I was here after a year later, that's when I figured out that I was actually in a different place. It took about a year, but at the same time it's just like a pleasant surprise to an extent. I mean, the media depicts the side of the world in a different point of view, but when you come here, you see a totally new world, and I didn't really set any expectations for myself, which kind of paid off at the end, because when I came in, I could just take things as it is, and that really helped me build connections that are still there. It's 4 years down the road, I'm not disappointed at all.
So it's more positive than what you might have thought from what you've heard, would you say, coming here?
Definitely, but the depiction media has a lot more negativity that's getting fostered in terms of that, but it's almost the same everywhere, but at the same time I see a lot more open-mindedness here. I can converse with people, engage in conversations a lot better than I could do back home, so it's definitely a positive experience.
I agree with his point. Last summer I went home and restriction about things that I can talk in public. And another thing is that when I first imagined myself coming here, I thought, oh well, I'll see all these people that I don't know and they're so different from me, and I was really worried about that. And when I came here, everyone was so welcoming. And back at home, our education system was about we respect the teacher, and the teacher are above there, and we students are down here. But here, I can talk to my professors very casually. Like, I can discuss with them about anything. And so those are the things that I can think of right now. Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing what activities you've taken on here, because one of the things that we remember most, I think, about being in school here were the many activities that were available to us. So what have you gotten involved in?
Right, where do I start the question with? I mean, the one main activity I picked up was music, because, I mean, I took that as a minor just because I never taken formal lessons, and nor with training an instrument with the 4 years. The day one I came in, they were like, hey, do you play guitar? And I'm like, sure. I mean, I wasn't really good at it at that point. But given the opportunity and seeing that no one really knew me here, I can start fresh. So whatever impression I made didn't really have nothing to do with what it was before, so I just went for it. But within the 4 years, I've actually indulged quite a bit. So like, playing instruments outside of campus, different places I traveled to, same thing, like playing street festivals, things like that. This one definitely gave me a good opportunity there to do theater. I've been doing sound design for the past couple of years, and that's something I really enjoy. And then got a lot of opportunities here with new equipment that we're getting, just testing everything, and it's, you know, it's part of research, but at the same time you get to have some fun as well. And it's multitude of different things. I really cannot like pinpoint a lot of things. I just had to like, if I start writing a list down, that's probably going to take at least a whole book.
Are you in Greek? You're in Greek life, right?
Yeah,
What's your?
that was a final.
I started small. I first started volunteer for the Intercultural Life office as an orientation leader. And then I met a lot of people, and it's just opportunities kept opening up. I got a job there, and I was the program assistant intern, and I did the programs. We did a lot. I did the marketing, do all the marketing materials for the office. And then as I worked there, I met a lot of staff on campus and learned about all these opportunities. So I applied to be resident assistant, so I got the position. And then, this upcoming semester, I'm gonna be head resident in Weir. So yeah, it just keeps opening up, and I am a writing center tutor. It's not. Last semester, I was the only international student working as a writing center tutor, and it was not common for people to see an international student tutoring American students. So it was a cool experience. And after last year, I think students on campus felt more, they're more comfortable with having international student tutoring, right? And then. Last semester, I also got a new job. Now I'm an editor for the Midwest Journal of Undergraduate Research. I presented at the conference last semester too, and then after that I applied for the position, and I got the position, so that's very exciting.
Did either or both of you come from towns larger or smaller than Monmouth, and what was the transition like if it were considerably larger than this town?
My city has 7 million people.
So how did you adjust?
When I first came here, my orientation leader drove me to Monmouth, and I saw nothing except and I was thinking, where am I going? And it was hard for me at first one of this, one of that. And I was shocked at first, so what are we doing here?
Well, your experience doesn't have to be international. My college roommate was from Boston. They picked her up at Quad City Airport, drove her down, the shuttle. She said she almost went back. She said she'd never seen so much flatland, so much black dirt, she didn't know what a silo was.
Wow.
We made her adapt. And where were you?
Mine actually, I was from a village, but it's still bigger than here. India is packed with a lot of people. At the same time, the transition was a lot easier for me because I prefer to simplicity to an extent for me to have a quieter neighborhood most of the times. But still, wasn't a hard transition at all. I mean, I came in day one. I usually, whenever I go to a new place, the first thing I do is just walk around. So I knew all the buildings before anyone did. So we have like a scavenger hunt, day 2 of our orientation, where all the nurse students are given like, oh, you have to go find this, here's the map. I didn't, I used a map. And we finished first. But we have, this is like walking around, just understanding. That's one thing I've been implementing in each place I travel. It's just like, get to know the area, walk. And that's something I look from here.
You both speak English very well. Did you speak English when you came? And were you familiar with the American culture before you came?
I started back at home. I started learning English since I was 7. So I had 11 years of experience before I came here, but then I wasn't that good when I first came here because I didn't actually talk to people in English. But when I came here and talked to people here, I got used to it, and it's very easy for us to pick up the language when we actually have to interact with people.
That's like what Godi was talking about, the immersive experience. When you don't have much people from your country, you're almost certainly forced to actually interact with people. And initially it's hard, and I kind of understood that. People are like, oh, it's just a fan, it's just that thing, that little white noise that you hear. It's like, it's okay, I can understand. Initially when I came here, I used to speak a lot faster than I do now. And people had a hard time understanding it. And I kind of picked up on that, and I was trying to slow down, because now people can understand most of the time. I'm not going to brag that I can speak perfect English. I'm getting there slowly, but the immersive experience has definitely helped me with understanding how different words work and how to pronounce certain words that I've never used before. So, yeah.
Professor Godi, would you say it was hard for our students that went down to Merida with you did they have that same English adjustment, or were they pretty far advanced in their Spanish-speaking skills when they went?
I had a range of students, and so I had some that were on the high end of intermediate Spanish, and so, you know, they had taken, I think, 5 courses before they came. And then I had one student that had taken 1 semester of Spanish, and actually, I think she did, well, she was the most improved, obviously, and did really well, because it really depended on personality in a way, because you have to just dive into it and not be worried about making mistakes, and just, you know, use it as much as possible. There were other higher level students that didn't, you know, improve as much as she did. So I had a range of students, and but they all obviously improved.
Did yours improve?
I think so. I had taken 1 semester here at Monmouth when I knew that we were going to do the program, and then I took a 2nd semester with Cynthia that I was talking about. We both sat in class. I didn't get graded, luckily enough, and but I do think it improved, but nowhere near as much as the students, because I didn't have a homestay family. I just had me, so nobody spoke Spanish to me all day long.
How many students, international students are there per year, and is there a goal that Monmouth has?
We currently have international students from 33 countries on campus. I can't tell you the exact number. I could email someone and ask, but I know that we do currently have 33 countries represented on campus, and it is within our admissions effort, we have retargeted, so we actually have an international recruitment counselor now. So she's been on several trips to China recently, and then she went to Japan as well. She was in the Scotland, Ireland, that area for a while, the Netherlands as well. So international recruitment is becoming a much, with our current admissions effort, we're expanding that targeted audience to bring them in.
I would ask the students, what, did you anticipate more or less academic rigor? In other words, when you came here, did you feel that the demands, educational demands were higher or lower than what you expected? Because I know some of your cultures are very tough educational systems and highly competitive. Did you feel that coming here, that there were fewer academic demands, about the same, or how do you feel about that?
You can be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm from that culture that is
Yes.
very competitive.
I know.
So when I first came here, I was so worried. My first semester, I just spent time reading all the materials that I can, and it was actually a little bit easier. But I think because we also want students to get involved in other things, and I learned a lot from my activities instead of actually sitting in class and taking exams. So I think it's balance between, there's a balance between academics and activities, while at home, we focus more on actually studying and taking exams.
I mean, the biggest thing for me was I only had 5 days a week for classes here. Back home, I can spend 6 days a week, even Sunday. I've had classes on Sundays as well. And usually it's almost like 5, it starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, goes to like 5, and then there's the additional thing that goes for another 2 hours. It's a lot more rigorous in here, but at the same time, here I've actually got skill sets. That's more, I think that's more important for my education and future endeavors than just academics. I mean, you can learn how to do something and the exact same thing multitude of times, but if you learn the technique how to learn something, you can learn anything you want. I think that's what I've got from the system here.
Which is part of the focus of the liberal arts education. We're glad you embraced it.
David?
You have both taken the reflections as beginners. Would you be willing to share what that experience meant to each of you? What if anything you've
So from your core curriculum
That
versus your
core
ILA, your global perspectives, your reflections, what do you guys feel you took out of that program? And Sujith, you had citizenship as well.
Yeah. I think for course the ILA was just a really interesting experience because just having different ideologies. I mean, usually you have discipline classes where you're focusing on a specific topic, but incorporating something, just a random book that you've never read before and trying to see a different perspective. Everyone in the class, no one wasn't actually in my major for starters. Everyone was in a different major. Trying to incorporate that all in the first ad, of course. That was really interesting because the conversations were all driven in what field they were in. Then you have what's the second? Global perspectives. Thank you for that. Global perspective on taking music and cultures, and the professor, he was from Norway. So he had a different style of music that most people didn't listen to, so it's kind of breaking barriers. And I was really interested in the fact that it's challenging you to do something that you would not do normally. Like in your academic field of discipline, I guess, you probably would not be encountering any of this. And at the same time, it kind of gives you a lot of experience how to interact with people. The reflections I took with Ira, it was Machiavelli and Gandhi. And I took it because in my head, both of them have like really contrasting viewpoints. So I just wanted to, the reason why I took that course is just to see what the collaboration was, why that combination instead of something else. But at the end, I was really pleased with how both of them had a lot of commonalities and how a lot of things are more hidden in terms of even Gandhi being from India, a lot of things that we have not seen or taught in our childhood. So definitely seeing more perspective, everything around us would be.
Yeah. So for my LA class, because where I'm from, we don't really talk in class because the teachers are both here, so whatever they say, we'll just write down and take the exam. So in my LA class, everyone was participating in the discussion, and I was like, whoa. Whoa, people here participate. And they can talk about whatever they want. So at first I was shocked. I didn't know what to say in class because we had participation points. I didn't know what to talk about in class. I was a freshman, I was nervous. And then after that, I learned a lot more about liberal arts, and now I talk a lot more in class. And in global perspective, I really like that class actually. We read a lot of interesting books, and even though I'm studying abroad, there's still things around the world that I need to know more about. So I did a lot of research in that class, and I really like it. For the reflection class, I took superhero. I took a superhero class. It's called Great Power, Great Responsibility, and how we, as citizens and as member in a community, how can we see the community and how we can be responsible to the people around us and all that. And I didn't know much about superheroes. To say I didn't know a lot. I knew Captain America, Iron Man, all that. Yeah, and I just learned a lot from that class, and it was really interesting.
Professor Godey, was there any difference in teaching your reflections course abroad than there is? I mean, did you guys focus on anything different while you were doing it in a different country where you were possibly having different self-reflections, or?
So you may have guessed I'm really big into experiential learning. And so I taught a class called Sacred Places, and I actually taught it on Saturdays because the students had their other classes either Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then they had internships that they went to on Friday. And I wanted a big block of time where we could experience the sacred places and not just talk about them. So every Saturday we went on a field trip and went to area churches, went to Mayan ruins, went to cenotes, which were believed to be a connection with the underworld by the Mayans. And so we traveled around for every one of the 14 weeks of my class and actually visited the spots and talked about them there instead of sitting in a classroom. So I don't think the reflections classes are normally like that. But I took it out of the box and said, well, why not? We're there, and we might as well actually learn about sacred places while we're at a sacred place. So hopefully the students enjoyed that.
I'd like to compliment the college on their foreign students. When I was here, we had something like 35 Malaysians. They were all in the same house. So basically, they took their classes in English and went back to Malaysia all the time. So you're lucky that Vietnamese can't really talk to an Indian unless you're using English. And I was going to, my question is, what's next? What do you do now? Do you have to go back to where you came from because of your visas? Do you have to go to grad school so you can stay here? So what's next?
I really want to end up in teaching, so I see a long drawn-out graduate program ahead of me. PhD can be short and really long, depending on what you actually want to do. And I do see that in my future pretty soon, so I'm excited for that, because I do want to be in academia. And I've been told that the best way to experiment a lot of things is being a professor, so you get unlimited access to all these facilities. You want to try and do something, you can, in a more career oriented. So if you're not in the academia, it's more likely that you follow what's there. It's really hard to get something new and experiment something. In academia, on the other hand, you can experiment, get
Just say here or go home.
here and then home. I want to gain aspect experience in capital and then go back home and start school. That's my goal, is start training people to see more things than what's around them, like getting them immersive, getting them more experience, things that I wish I would have had back home. Kind of giving the students that opportunity there.
I have a similar experience like Sujit. So I went home last summer, and I see what an opportunity I got here, because the education that I'm receiving here is, I think it's better than what my friends is getting back home. So I really want to go into academia too, but instead of like teaching, I want to bring this kind of opportunity back home to the people there to, instead of actually have to study so much and take all the exams, I want to have them experience something like this. I learned a lot from my activities here, and I want them to have the same experience like this. So right now, I'm gonna be a senior next year, and I'm looking into graduate school. I'm doing a lot of academia work. I help with tutoring, writing, and I do undergraduate research. So hopefully to get into academia, and want to know how I can bring this, because here I have access to all this research, all these books. They're so interesting, and we don't get that many back home. So I really want to bring this kind of education system back home and have the student experience this. Even though we do have international schools at home, but they're really expensive.
We have time for maybe one more question for Professor Goki and one more for the students.
Real quickly, we live and travel overseas a lot. I was always interested in view of my country from the outside looking in. It was often differently from what it was inside looking out. So how do your experiences here compare to what you thought you knew about this country before you came here? Differ? Is this the same country you thought you read about before you came here?
It's kind of the same. It's different a little bit, but I do have a lot of friends that went to study abroad here, and they came back, and we have an organization called Be the Brother. So they're a nonprofit organization, and they usually every summer they have students study abroad here, come home and tell the students what's happening here and what the culture is like. So I was going to some of their sessions, their conferences, and I learned a lot about the culture here. So I was prepared before I came here. So it's and actually a lot of people were asking me, because we had Vietnam War. So a lot of people asked me how we feel about America after all that happened. But my generation, I was born in 1996, so I didn't know much about that. Yeah.
Ciao, come and you come.
Oh!
What city are you from?
I'm from Hanoi.
Hanoi, okay.
Yes.
Well, I was there back in the war, and these people have been there since. When were you there last week?
2 years.
2 years ago?
Oh, wow.
Like your country.
We like it.
And the
Yeah, it's
city.
beautiful.
Yeah, we like
Thank
it too.
you.
Yeah.
And your Vietnamese is really good.
Come on, Lula.
So does anybody have one last question? Ralph? Go ahead.
Sujit was very modest in what his involvement has been on the campus here. A few of the things that he forgot. He sang in the chorus, he worked with the radio station, he did open mic at Market Alley Wines. He was involved in lights and sound in about every theater promotion on here, and he transitioned into where he was a dancer. That might have been a little iffy, but he was Alpha Z's Man of the Year. But his primary community contribution, he helps geriatric people with their computer problems.